What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Halloween Cup, and more specifically, we're going to be looking at Leavanny, or Leavanny, I don't know how you pronounce it. We're going to be looking at Leavanny in the Halloween Cup, specifically trying to get it a shield advantage and trying to get it in that shield advantage scenario so that it can sweep in the end game. So we put it in the closer spot, and it is a pretty glassy Pokemon, so we're pairing it with two bulkier Pokemon. But before we get into what we're pairing it with, let's look at the 1-0 and the 2-1 shield scenario. So in the 1-0, we see that has a 19-7 record for an average rating of 641. That's great. I mean, that means it absolutely dominates. And we see the exact same record in the 2-1 shield scenario, 19-7, but with a slightly lower rating. Just means it's not winning those wins as convincingly. And that's pretty much all it is. But I mean, this Pokemon was an absolutely amazing sweeper. And how do you get it in a shield advantage scenario? You pair it with bulky Pokemon. So those bulky Pokemon that we're pairing it with are Toxapex and Umbreon. So why Toxapex? Toxapex is weak to Psychic, it's weak to Electric, it's weak to Ground. What resists or hits super effective against all of those? Leavanny, right? The grass typing resists the electric, it resists the ground, as well as the bug typing. It also resists the ground, and bug and the Shadow Claw, which is ghost, hit super effective against psychic type Pokemon. So a really great core there. But also Umbreon we're going to use as a safe switch. The dark plus poison core is as old as time. It's just a great combination of typings with only one weakness, which is ground. Obviously dark not weak to ground, but it's still neutral, and so we're just kind of using it as a safe swap, and then getting a shield advantage between those two Pokemon, shielding as little as we can on those two Pokemon, and then giving Leavanny as many shields to work with so it can win the end game. Obviously, that doesn't work out 100% of the time, but it was a pretty good core. So let's just hop right into the matches. First up, we have a Clodsire. So this is a tough matchup, right? Obviously, it's fairly neutral because we can both hit super effective each other, them with Earthquake, us with Brine. Brine's a worse move than Earthquake. So I go for the catch on the Earthquake, and I draw out an Azumarill, and they hold on to their energy. So this isn't great, because obviously Leavanny could have dealt with Azumarill, and this is not really what we're trying to draw out. But that being said, it is drawing out a Fairy, which Toxapex can punish and then come out with a lot of energy, right? And those Brines will do some decent chip damage against Clodsire. It's still a super effective move, but Brine in general is a pretty crap move. So we're just going to last resort this Azumarill down into Poison Jab farm down range, and now we're hoping that they take us out here, which they do. So they're forced to throw their energy. Obviously, their energy is not going to go anywhere against Toxapex. Everything is resisted, even if they were running Hydro Pump. Everything is resisted. Ice Beam, Hydro, Play Rough. So they're going to get off the last thing and Play Rough, and we get the full farm down. Now we're at 2 moves. So we're going to fire off 1 Brine. We know they still have the Earthquake loaded and they farm beyond it. So we're going to go and hit another Brine onto this Clodsire, which looks to be on the CMP tie. Oh, no, maybe they just didn't get a sneak there. I'm not really sure. Or maybe they were trying to wait the turn, because it looks like my opponent wasn't attacking there. Then they get off the Earthquake. I don't shield that. And I believe this is just another Sludge Bomb. And it is. We actually live that. So now we're going to come in with Leavanny. They switch because they see us switch. And they have Greninja in the back. So obviously Leaf Blade and X-Scissor are both super effective here. But Leaf Blade is a little cheaper and does more damage. So we are going to go for these Stab Leaf Blades, and the pacing on Leavanny is great. It's 5-4 to Leaf Blade. So now that we've grabbed both shields here, we can shield everything. And then I think after this, I lost track of where their energy was at, so I could have just thrown one in the move. Oh, actually, never mind, I do. I throw one in the move. Clodsire comes in. I try to undercharge this, so it doesn't take out, so I come out with energy, but that doesn't work out. And then I catch, I think, a Night Slash onto my Toxapex, which is huge because now that means even though they get to another Night Slash here, I should be able to live this because they did not boost, and I get the Leaf Blade off to take this game. So we saw Leavanny there with a I think it was an even shield scenario, but because Greninja is so glassy and it has the type advantage, we take that map. Okay, terrible lead for us in the next match. We see a Golurk. So we're going to come in with Umbreon. They go for a Dark Pulse catch onto their Drapion, but we hold our energy. We get off the last resort. And now, this is like not a great matchup, and also it's going to be hard for Toxapex to farm them down. So it wouldn't be a terrible thing if we flip switch, but we also know that if we can grab shields in this matchup, like we just did with the last resort, they did not need to shield that, they could have survived that, and I was not going to get the Snarl farm down. But because we get that shield advantage, now we know, especially if they let us get to another move, that we're going to be in a great spot here. Because this either puts them in the red or takes the or grabs a shield, and they decide to just let it go, take us out, and now they're in farm down range for our Toxapex, which is fine because now, look at that, we're in the 2-to-1 shield scenario, and now we also have an energy advantage, right? They come in with Quillfish. Obviously, these Poison Stings are super effective, but we're only going to shield here if they farm up to something like an Ice Beam or a Sludge Wave, which they do, so I will respect that. They do bait with the Aqua Tail, but I do get off the Leaf Blade, it looks like on the CMP tie here. And I can get the Shadow Claw farm down. At this point, I know this can only be another Aqua Tail, so I will let this go. And now that they have no shields and Mud Slap is double resisted, I can get to this Leaf Blade and take out this Golurk to win that game. Into the next match, we see Greninja on the lead. This is a pretty positive matchup. Obviously, we resist a lot here. And then they come in with Drapion. Don't have an immediate answer to Drapion, so I just catch the crunch onto my Umbreon after 5 fast moves there. And unfortunately, of course, they get the debuff on the first crunch. Very unfortunate. I had terrible crunch luck. It seemed like my opponents were getting the crunch debuff 100% of the time. But that being said, with the 5 Poison Jab fast move damage that we got onto the Drapion, it looks like 2 last resorts will take out. So this will threaten them to throw their energy. And right, the whole point is we're trying to get a shield advantage. We don't really care about switch. Our Leavanny has a great matchup into Greninja, especially with a shield advantage. So we actually want them to shield this, and they do, which is great for us because now we can just come in with the Toxapex, and sure, they're going to get off a crunch here, and it'll probably debuff with our luck. It doesn't, which is huge. I overfarm by 1, which is obviously a mistake here, because now that means they get to another crunch. Clearly I had lost count, but now I'm going for an undercharge to make up for it, hoping that I can get a farm down, and then they come in with Greninja, and then I go for a Night Slash catch on the Leavanny. So I'm playing this a little bit odd, but it still might be winnable because they obviously can't farm us down. For some reason they overfarm there. Maybe trying to throw on good timing, but that lets me get to the Leaf Blade because I got the Shadow Claw sneak, and that takes out their Greninja. And then they have a Clodsire in the back, so this is going to be really hard to come back from. We don't know if they're running Sludge Bomb or Stone Edge yet, so we don't know what their pacing is like. We do have 2 shields still, but it looks like that's not going to matter. We do have Toxapex still in the back, and it is low, but they're not going to have a great time trying to Poison Sting farm us down. So we're going to start shielding every single move here, and we're just going to have to try and watch for a catch, making sure that they do not catch it onto their Pokemon in the back, the Drapion, and then they just switch. Maybe didn't know where my energy was at. That lets me get the full farm down, and now I'm going to come out with another Brian, and they can't Poison Sting farm us down, so we take that win. Shift Tree in the lead in the next match. They're on Razor Leaf, and it looks like they forgot about Toxapex as a Pokemon, so they just resigned the match. Okay, Golurk again. So obviously this is a negative lead. We're going to come in with the Umbreon. It is our safe switch. This one doesn't throw right away, and this could be, or it doesn't switch, so this could be a dynamic punch, and it is. So I actually will elect to shield that, just because that will do a lot of damage, and it's not really something I want to take because then that just guarantees they take switch. I overfarm over 100 energy here, probably not the best play I could have made. Probably should have just clicked the move, then thrown one on the move, and would have been fine. But we overfarm a tiny bit, not the end of the world. We get off 2 last resorts onto this Drapion. And now we are in range for an Aqua Tail, and I believe they're at 2, so I will just let this go. Actually, not quite, so they are forced to throw their energy. That's fine. We're probably going to come back in with that Toxapex, do the same thing, try to get that shield advantage back, because we are currently at a shield deficit, which is not where Leavanny wants to be. And then they have Greninja in the back, so we're seeing this core again. So maybe someone put out a video with this team, maybe it was Yonkis or Homeplace or someone, but this team is absolutely everywhere, so we're going to try and punish it again. We can live one move here, so we will elect to let the first Night Slash go. Now we're going to grab the second shield here, which is huge, because now their Golurk has no shields, right? And so this team, it's a good core, but both Pokemon are really glassy, and we can use that to our advantage because one Leaf Blade will be threatening to both. I wasn't sure where their energy was at, so I actually just come in with Toxapex, and then I outpace, or maybe I don't outpace, but they really can't throw their energy because it was just a Shadow Punch, which wouldn't take me out, and now they have a Greninja against like a full HP Toxapex, so we actually take that win again. Azu into the next match. Okay, this is a great lead for us. They switch into Drapion. Once again, we don't have a great answer for this, so we go for the Crunch Catch. That allows us to get the sneak because we were slightly misaligned by 1 turn there. But this is not really a positive matchup, just because 2 last resorts don't take out. That being said, we did get the poison jab damage, and even though it is resisted, it might put them into 2 last resort range after these snarls, and it looks like it does. So they will be threatened to at least expend all of their energy before they can get out of this matchup. And I will throw right away just so I can either force that energy or force switch by either grabbing a shield or taking them out. And they choose to shield that, and then they throw right away, which is great for me. Aqua Tail doesn't quite take me out, so they do get the full farm down, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we can just come back in with the Toxapex. Hopefully we don't make the same mistake. It looks like we might be able to get a full Poison Jab farm down, which would be huge, because then we can at least leave with multiple brines to threaten this Golurk. We did not get the Crunch debuff, which was huge, so clearly I was wrong about how often we got it. We're still saving that shield advantage for the Leavanny in the back. And then they come in with Clodsire, and my game completely freezes, so it would not let me click on the move, so I had to just come in with Leavanny. Fortunately, it let me do that. And then they come back in with Azu, so we're just going to get off this Leaf Blade. They know they can survive 1, but we're at another one already, and I don't really want to use this shield yet, so I will take out this Azu. And now we have 2 shields. We have 2 brines loaded on our Toxapex if it lets us throw it this time. And all we have to do is basically chip this Clodsire. They are on Stone Edge, which means I might be able to get to a second Leaf Blade on the CMP tie if they slightly overfarm, which they do, which is perfect for me, because now I can let this go, because now they're in brine range, and I have 2 loaded, right? So they can shield 1, but they can't shield 2, because they only have 1 left. We let that go. It's still not letting me click the move. I was spamming it, I promise you. Finally, I switch fingers. I don't know, maybe something was on my finger, I'm not sure. But we get off the brine, and fortunately, we still make it to another brine. So even though we lost maybe 10 turns of energy there, we still take that win. Guzzlord in the next match. Okay, Guzzlord is a little bit tricky. Looks like they were lagging a bit at the beginning, but they do catch up. Guzzlord is tricky because it's really strong against both of our Pokemon in the back. If Leavanny has energy advantage, it can hit super effectively with X-Scissor, but it's hard to get into an energy advantage situation if we see Guzzlord on the lead, especially when they shield a Sludge Wave. It is really risky to go for the Brine Bait, but honestly, after playing these matchups, I might start going for the Brine Bait because they can make it to 2 brutal swings before you can make it to the next Sludge Wave, which means they can either force both shields, which we can't really give up with Leavanny in the back, or they can take you out after 1 shield. So you kind of just have to take the shield advantage and take that loss, but then it's really tricky to try and get Guzzlord out. We do just come in with Umbreon because we know it's bulky and we get off that last resort. Fortunately, they let that go, and then they have Toxapex in the back. So obviously, we are staying in this matchup because we do not want to see this on our Leavanny. So we're just going to get off these Dark Pulses and play out this matchup. You might see me shield in this matchup just because I don't really want to have these super effective Poison Jabs hit my Leavanny, and if I can get this into Leaf Blade range. Looks like I am going to let this go. This could be a brine call, and it is, which is huge. But now they're forced to throw their energy. So now they're going to be energy dry, so it is tempting to just let this go. It actually doesn't take us out there. So now we're going to come in with Leavanny. Look at these Poison Jabs. They're doing so much damage. Fortunately, we are 5-4 to these Leaf Blades, so they're not even going to make it to a move there. But actually, they have X-Scissor in the back after letting that go. Leaf Blade's double resisted, X-Scissor is single resisted, so I'm just going to go for the X-Scissor here. They shield that up. Can I make it to another X-Scissor? Yes, I can. That is huge. This should put it pretty low. It actually leaves them on 1 HP. They go for a mistake here. They throw. If I'm not on 1 HP, this Snarl will go through and I'll have the Dark Pulse loaded, but I was at 1 HP. So it KOs through the shield. My opponent almost gave me a win con in the end game, but unfortunately, we take that loss. Guzzlord into the next matchup. So we've seen how this plays out. I know I don't go for any brine baits in these matchups, so you're going to see me full send the Sludge Wave. It's just because if they call it, I mean, it's game over. Brine just does so little damage. So we full send the Sludge Wave. Before they make it to their next move, they correctly shield it up. And now we're in a tricky situation. I go for the Brutal Swing catch onto my Umbreon. I was unsuccessful. This is a really tricky spot to be in. They go for the Dragon Claw. So they're on Dragon Claw Brutal Swing, which is actually okay for us because Dragon Claw doesn't do that much damage here. The unfortunate thing is this last resort, they are not in range to be taken out here. So I'm going to have to go for either a really aggressive Snarl down or I'm going to have to throw another Dark Pulse here. But that's kind of the name of the game. Save shields for Leavanny and hope it can win in the end game. So yeah, it looks like we're going to full send the Dark Pulse. I am running Dark Pulse over Foul Play. I maybe kind of regret that just for the pacing in these matchups. But that being said, it does hit a little bit harder and it felt okay in some of these matchups. They come in with Drapion. This is tricky because now they're going to get the full farm down. And they're loaded with energy, so we're probably going to come in with Toxapex, force them to throw their energy to take us out. They do go for the crunch. They get the defense drop, of course, but we get off the brine, which is kind of nice, and they let that go, which is huge, because now we might actually be able to get a resisted Shadow Claw farm down. They probably will get to 2 moves here. Yeah, I think they're at a move on the Drapion. So we're at like 1 away. So I'm going to get this Leaf Blade off. It looks like I will be able to pace the exact same as this Sableye to the next move. So I get off the Leaf Blade. I have another Leaf Blade loaded. So if they shield this, I can throw it right away. No, I'm going to choose to catch on the Toxapex, which is huge. Because now I can go for the Shadow Claw farm down or make it to 2 Leaf Blades. I need the 2 Leaf Blades, but I lose CMP. No, I don't. What happened in the matchup is when I came back in with Leavanny, I got 1 turn bring in, and therefore they actually make it to the move before I do. I had back-to-back Leaf Blades loaded, which means I should have won that game because I win CMP up against both those Pokemon, Drapion and Sableye. So that's another game where Niantic has forced a loss, and there's nothing we can do about it, even though that was a positive matchup for us. You'll see I played this one out a little bit differently. It's another Golurk in the lead. And I actually don't shield this time. I was expecting a dynamic punch, but I had already grabbed the shield, so I was more okay with letting that go. Earth Power still does a lot of damage. And then they come in with Nidoqueen. So my opponent has never heard of a water Pokemon in their life. That being said, my water Pokemon is a Poison Jab user, so not the best scenario. But we know how we want to play this out. We're going to let this go. Maybe they'll go for a Poison Fang bait. That'd be great. They don't. They full send the Earth Power. That is a lot of damage. They make it to another move here. This should just be a Poison Fang, so I will let this one go because it shouldn't take out from this range. And then they have no reason to shield this, especially now that this Brian will take them out. And now I'm instant swapping to Leavanny, and it's a Froslass in the back. So we're both hitting super effective on our fast moves, but mine looks like it's doing a tiny bit more damage, even though it's non-stab. Just because Shadow Claw is such a good move, and I will make it to back-to-back Leaf Blades. They go for the catch when I make it to back-to-back Leaf Blades, so good heads-up play by my opponent, but that lets me overfarm because I hold on to my energy. I go for the Leaf Blade to take out the Galaric, and now I am very close to back-to-back Leaf Blades, if not already at it, and my opponent knows that, so they let that go. So very well played by my opponent. Good attempt, at least, by my opponent in that last matchup, because that would have given them the energy advantage that they needed to potentially win that last game. But heads-up play on our part, so we take the win. But yeah, so you saw the team in action. It went really, really well. Not a whole lot of losses with this team. Obviously, Toxapex, Umbreon are super bulky. Leavanny is the opposite. But it's just the pacing to Leaf Blade and X-Scissor are great. And X-Scissor doesn't have a lot of targets in this meta. Obviously, if you run into like a dark flying Pokemon, X-Scissor is neutral at least. But it doesn't have a whole lot of targets. That being said, Leaf Blade is great for everything. And that grass typing is okay because it resists those Mud Slap users, and it hits super effective against those water types. So really good core between Toxapex and the back two Pokemon as well. And the back two Pokemon don't share a whole lot of, don't really share any weaknesses. So the core in itself was really strong. So if you enjoyed, that's great. Hope you guys come back for the next video, and I will see you next time. Peace.